Hey everyone, today I'm going to be doing a study in anatomy and the skull. I'm using this book that I got yesterday at the thrift store. I think some of you saw the video of me drawing a face with it, and I love this book for all the drawings of basically the skull and the figure. And I've always wanted to try this, and honestly, I guess this is something you should be doing when you're wanting to draw faces and figures. He doesn't really do any kind of teaching on the skull other than these diagrams. So I'm basically going to be looking at the diagrams and seeing if I can draw it, and then I'm going to be maybe labeling it if I can. Other than the main part of the skull, the circular area that, houses our brains, the rest of the skull is pretty angular. And so I know that I have to enlarge the head, so I'm going to go do that. I'm just mapping it in, making it a little bit bigger, and I'm not afraid to make changes as I go, really trying to get these angles done of the cheekbone, almost like a triangle, the side of it, a triangle on its side. The nasal cavity is somewhat like a triangle. It's large, and so are the eye sockets. So I'm going to get all of that mapped in. I feel like the easiest part to do is the cheekbones and just mapping in the teeth. But obviously I'm going to have to make this jaw a little bit bigger after I get these teeth done. I'm really having fun playing with these pencils. Normally I draw with a marker, but when I'm doing something new like a skull, I felt like a pencil was the way to go. So now I'm just trying to make it a little bit, just seeing if I can make it bigger. I'm really looking at that reference photo to make sure I'm getting things where they should be. The eye sockets are quite large. So I'm just trying to make these big without being too big. It was really interesting trying to get these teeth in, getting them the right size, the right shape, and especially because you're looking at the skull in the front, and then those teeth, they're going to the back, so they have to get smaller as they go back. And just trying to get that size right was quite the challenge, but I'm happy how that turned out. And now I'm just going through with the paintbrush with a little bit of water on it, because this pencil is water soluble, and it made it really easy to add some shadows. I'm really loving the water-soluble pencil because I can adjust the size of this skull as I go and really work in the shadows. So this is a lot of fun to do, and I'm probably going to use this pencil again. I go over all the supplies at the end of this video, so if you keep watching, I'll go over everything I used to create this. I chose a really tiny brush here with a little water, and I'm trying to be really careful with where I'm adding shadow. So just sort of where the gums are so that the teeth still look white. And I'm just really looking at the skull in my photo reference and going over and over it again. And now I've got some watercolor. So I'm using some black watercolor to add even more shadow and dimension, just trying to get this skull to sort of stand out. As I look at the reference photo, and I've actually brought up some skull photos on my computer, I'm really trying to get the angles in, the shadows in, the darks and the lights to sort of make it really pop. And one of the things I usually do is I overwork a lot of artwork, so I'm making a real effort here not to overwork it, and just seeing what I can do here. And I feel like it's really coming together, and I'm quite happy with it. This is my second try at the skull. The first one didn't really turn out. I think the water soluble pencil is the way to go, and then watercolor on top of it to add even more shadow is the best way to approach this, in my opinion, for my own personal preference. I've got my favorite gel pens out, the white gel pen that I'm using, and I'm just adding some squiggles, some sketchy lines to the skull, and just trying to make different areas stand out a little bit more. Now I'm going all in, and I've decided that I'm going to label the skull. It just brings back my university days. I did science in university, and I just loved anatomy, so here I am labeling it. There are so many things to label on the skull, it's unbelievable. And I guess it just goes to show that's why faces are so hard to draw. There's just so many things to consider, and this was an excellent exercise, and I highly recommend it. This is my final skull that I did. This was my second practice because the first one was so bad. That was really hard. I really enjoyed that, and I am going to keep trying because that was super hard, way harder than drawing a face, because you're actually trying to get everything correct, and obviously that's going to really help when it comes to drawing faces and understanding the structure underneath. So I really enjoyed that. I'm loving this book. I'm probably going to get some more anatomy books if I can find them at the thrift store. I'm going to go over the materials that I used to do this. I'm going to move this in a little closer. I started off with a Stabilo All pencil, which is a water-soluble pencil, and if you could sketch things out, add a little water, don't need to worry about blending. The next thing I did was once I drew it and then added a little water, I wanted to darken up some of the skull a bit and then make adjustments. And so I just used some black watercolor to do that. Once I added those details and I let it dry, I went in with the Uniball Signo gel pen in white to add those sort of loose sketchy marks to it and highlight certain areas. And then I labeled it with the Sharpie pen. That was interesting, labeling the skull. I didn't even label the whole thing. So there's a whole bunch in here that can be labeled, and around the eye and in the eye socket that can be labeled. But I think this is an excellent exercise for anyone who wants to draw faces. And I'm going to do this again. I'm going to draw this again and again and again. And I'm going to get into the anatomy. I really had a lot of fun doing that. And that was really hard. And this is the final result, with a close-up of the different areas of the skull. The teeth were really hard to do. I hope this inspires you to give it a try. I'd love to hear from you, and any ideas or suggestions you have. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and happy sketching.